Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How's it going?
Oh man, feel like we say it every week. We start off with riding that weather roller coaster.
Man, I was gonna actually even ask, like, are we in like? I'm almost finding myself thinking we're more in these like biblical times here.
You know, sometimes I think maybe so, but I don't know. I am of the opinion. I mean, I don't even think it's necessarily opinion. I think you can argue it's fact that climate's always been changing. I mean, heck, which I guess technically we're still in the ice age because our um, we still have the frozen polar ice caps or
Are we
whatever.
still considered in the ice age?
Well, I was talking to somebody one day. I was like, of course the climate's always been changing. We were in an ice age one time. They were like, well, technically we still are in an ice age. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't. I'm not that much of an. I'm not an expert at all
Yeah.
in the climate, but yeah, you think about the way the world has changed, just that we know of, since it has existed, and yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, it was what mid 60s, I think, yesterday morning when we woke up, or certainly in the 60s. This morning it's low 40s.
Yeah. That's
So,
what I mean. I I have to check the weather every day before I go out,
yeah,
just to so I can
that's
know,
what,
do I
and
wear
I just,
shorts or am I in a hoodie?
right. Well, by default, I usually put on my sleeves and everything. One morning this week, I stepped out on the porch taking the dogs out. I was like, whoop, take the sleeves off.
Yeah, yeah.
But so I don't know. I can remember several years, because of course, this being Easter week, we actually have outdoor church service on Sunday morning, weather permitting. But when I say weather permitting, it's rain.
Yeah.
Cold don't run us inside. But there's been several times where you bundled up, and a lot of the ladies especially got a little blanket, lay across their lap when we're sitting out there. Um, yeah, and then well, had a conversation like yesterday. The first softball tournament we had outdoors this year for my daughter. I believe it was first week of March because it was my dad's birthday. It was about what 5 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was like 80. I got sunburned. I wore shorts all day long. I think by the time we got to the night games, I did pull some long pants on. And then the next weekend, we had one canceled for snow.
Yeah.
It wasn't even rain out; it was
Yeah.
snow out.
The next weekend.
Yeah, I say it was either the next weekend or 2 weekends later. But it was later on in the year. But
Hold
I
on, wait.
don't.
We got to turn that thing off. Will you hop up and
Oh
turn the
yeah.
power? I was going to say, what is that? We were
Oh
picking
yeah.
up, all of a sudden, I was like, dang, we got a vortex moving in on us here. Yeah. Sorry there, folks. We forgot to got the heater going on one side and got the AC unit rolling in the other side here. So for those of you listening, that's where Bobby Lee just he had to cancel the air on us. Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, like I said, snow one weekend. I don't know, and I was thinking even with the tornadoes. So now yesterday, luckily for us, it kind of did not get it quite like what they
Right.
were originally saying. Because like 2 days ago, we were all going to be killed yesterday. Like,
Right. Yeah, and I always talk about how I don't ever turn on the TV, and we don't. Like we have the smart TV, we turn it on, we go straight to whatever app we're gonna watch through Netflix or YouTube or whatever. Yesterday afternoon, my wife's like, "I think we're under a tornado warning." I was like, "Cool," the typical redneck, like, "Yeah, let's walk outside and look."
yeah,
And we actually did turn on. I put it back on the antenna so we could turn it on the local news, and and I understand if you're a meteorologist, hey, that's the most exciting time.
oh yeah,
You're not rooting for a tornado, but they yeah, we were under a tornado warning, but I don't think was there ever actually a funnel cloud spot, or was it just the radar signature was one of those deals?
like in our area, I don't know because
It was close to us because it like I went on turn on TV, I was like, oh gosh, I think what they were seeing on the radar ended up being just a little south of us
well, my buddy Taylor got hit. They got hit by a tornado.
down in Mississippi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's way on down, like he's not that close to us,
yeah. I
is he?
can't remember exactly where he said he's at, but yeah, he was telling us like it hit their. They were, I guess, over. I mean, I don't know how much he wants me to divulge, but like it kind of hit their car. Like he said, it tore off the back end of like his wife's car, And like, I mean, they heard it go because they were in the house and it like went by. I think he said his house was okay, but they had a lot of trees down and stuff like that. So
Yeah, this has been a wild weather week. I don't know how much you probably paid attention, probably hadn't because it didn't affect us, but they had what some people were calling a once in a century blizzard in like eastern Montana and North Dakota.
oh, really?
It's been I was trying to find more about it to talk about this morning, and there's not a lot of reports yet. I don't know if there will be over the next few days. Maybe talk about it next week. But of course, we're in the middle of April. A lot of them that far north are either right in the middle of calving or just now starting to calve. They're like, this is going to be
Terrible. Yeah.
devastating because up to, well, I think they said some like mountain communities that must have been, I don't know, because where that would have been, but up to 4 feet of snow. And I think across most of North Dakota, they were saying like 2 feet.
Yeah. That's still a freaking ton of snow.
50-mile-an-hour winds. And you know what? That area has been just begging for any type of moisture, just severe drought. And they're like, well, at least they are getting this. But then the little bit I was getting to read on it, one of the ranchers was pointing out, he's like, we're getting this snow and it's going to be 50-mile-an-hour winds. He's like, this stuff, it's going to end up, in drifts, in the ditches and in the, little valleys. Like, it's not even going to really put that much moisture in the ground, across the whole area.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's something we don't even think about here. Cause when we get snow, it's an inch or two.
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
it'll drift up in spots, but it's like, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Whereas they're like, yeah, the bright spot would be at least we're going to get this moisture as it melts. But yeah, it might all end up not even in evenly in the ground, where they really need it. But
yeah, that, I don't know, man. I like, even with the tornadoes, this was something I was thinking about. Like, I used to hardly ever have to worry about a tornado. Like, very rarely, every now and then we'd have that like crazy storm, like once in 10 years, I feel like, where it'd be like, all right, we got to really think about hopping in the basement or something. And
some of that might be, I feel like, more the media too, in the way they
hyping it up. I mean, now, I'm proud to say I watched a tornado last year.
Well, that's what
but yeah, so I don't know.
Like yesterday, we were technically under a tornado warning. I mean, it rained hard and stormed. I don't know what the rate, because like, I'm pretty sure, again, right here locally, the one they were warning us about, I don't know that it was ever truly a funnel cloud that anybody spotted. I just think, 20, 30 years ago, we would have just been in a severe thunderstorm. I don't know.
Yeah.
I joked too. I did this in one of my YouTube videos. Our dad's generation, they always bragged about, I walked to school uphill both ways in the snow. It's like, our bragging rights is going to be, when there was a tornado, we went out in the hallway and waited it out at school.
Yeah.
Because now they let anytime there's a threat of severe weather, they let the schools out. Like severe thunderstorms.
Did they let them out yesterday?
Our school, which it kind of drives me insane, texted us, and I'll look at my phone. It was about 12:30 that school was going to let out at 2. It's like, thanks for the damn heads up.
Yeah.
Like, thank you. And 2, I don't even know, because I don't typically pick my kids up from school. I think they get out at like 2:30, so it wasn't even that much of a change. But it was so they texted us. It was at exactly 12:30. Due to the threat of severe weather, school is dismissing at 2 p.m. and the biggest, because of course that's not that much difference, but there's also no school aftercare. My kids go to aftercare a lot of days.
Yeah.
But my son was actually already with me because they had their Easter egg hunt yesterday. So my wife and I went and watched them do that, and then we, of course, I checked him out, and he spent the day with me. But
yeah, then you had to go back and get Kimber about 30 minutes early.
My mother actually picked her up yesterday. Yeah, I'm not great on. I do pick them up occasionally, but it's usually between my wife and mother. But yeah, it's just like, the school's a concrete block building, like.
Yeah, pretty secure.
Yeah.
Well, that is, like you said, we always, go get in the hall, put your head down up, like kind of, we'd put our head down, I think, towards the wall and put our hands over our head.
It was a routine thing.
It could be like a class 5 whatever tornado out in the parking lot. And like, all right,
that was protocol. Like, no, we don't send kids home for a tornado.
Yeah, we barely got out for snow. Like, I remember it would, like it could snow some, and
I
it's
think a lot of it's all a liability thing now.
yeah,
Which
man.
which
People get bent out of shape. Tell you, I saw.
well, and like yesterday, I want to point out, it was not just our school. Like we were actually eating lunch, and they had at a restaurant, and they had a TV on the local news, and it was like there were widespread schools already
Oh yeah,
saying they were out. And I was like, well, I was kind of thinking to myself, I can't believe they hadn't announced we're not having school.
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't long they did.
Well, that's what people get bent out of shape, man. Because I've seen some of the memes making fun of that, and then I've seen some parents on Facebook like, "How dare the school care about our children's safety?" Like I've seen them like getting
Like sarcastically,
like yeah, they're like they're mad that
if you think your kid shouldn't be there because it's not safe, go check them out.
yeah,
Like
yeah, don't wait on the school then if that's the case. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. But it's like they'll take, and like I said, it worked out okay yesterday because my mother was already picking my daughter up, but really she would have picked my son up too, of course, if he had been there. But like some people, like if that had been, like it's oftentimes like my mom's not available or it's not a day that she would pick them up.
yeah,
And, especially my wife before she started her newest job, you give me an hour and a half notice that I'm going to be there to unexpectedly pick up my kid all of a sudden, we'd be scrambling.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
That's our old man, complain about the times.
or get off my lawn type.
Yeah, that's get off my lawn moment. In my day,
I think that's something we need to start doing, a get off my lawn moment. I like that.
we waited out the storms.
Yep.
If we were gonna die, we were gonna die together.
Yeah.
With all our classmates.
Yeah, I like that, man. I'm making a note here. I think we need to do that.
The get off my lawn segment.
Yeah, get off my lawn. We need to try to put together some sort of little sound effect for that. Unfortunately, copyright ruins everything these days. But all right, what else you got?
So yeah, as we look for like the news topics and our current news, I guess I will mention one thing, and I won't dive too much into it because I think coming up we may be able to. But that cattle market Price Discovery and Transparency Act, it has officially, I guess, become a bill in front of the Senate. So I just encourage folks, take 2 minutes to call your senators, tell them we really need it. But especially your congressman, take a chance because they feel like in the Senate, we're pretty certain the votes are there to pass it.
Yeah.
The House is where it might get a little touchy. We know that there's going to be an extreme not competition, but pushback from some of the other groups that their interests are more aligned with the big meat packers. And of course they've got endless amounts of money. And so I won't say paid off, but through lobbying or whatever you want to call it, they do have some politicians in their pocket already.
Can't imagine that.
Right. Yeah. Not in America, but yeah, it takes 2 minutes. I used to, people would tell me like, hey, call your lawmakers about this, and be like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
No, it is super easy. Of course, you'll talk to a staffer, tell them who you are, or they'll ask who you are, and say, hey, Cattle Market Price Discovery and Transparency Act. And if you have cattle, like tell them why it's important to you. If you don't,
do you
have
know
cattle,
the number of the bill?
Oh gosh, and see, one of the other updates that I listen to every day, it listed it, but of course it's a different number in the House versus the Senate.
I was gonna say, just to make it like easier.
Yeah, you can go to the group, the industry group that has really been the one pushing it is the U.S. Cattlemen's Association. So if you just Google them, you go to their website. Of course, they've got all the information, like how to make it easy for you to contact your lawmakers. But if you just tell them the Cattle Market Price Discovery and Transparency Act, I think it's getting enough attention in Washington right now. They're going to be aware of it.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
So,
anything else?
Yeah, that's as far as current news, those were the few things I had.
All right, I got a few. I made some notes here. I need to get me an official notebook so I look more professional than having to pull my phone up here.
See, what's neat is I brought this notebook and I have nothing written in it for today. Nothing.
But it looks very professional.
I look like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm like Amy Barrett Cody, whenever she was at her her Senate confirmation hearings.
Yes.
They're like, let's see what notes you have. She had yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably the only way I'm in any way like her. But
oh man, no, come on.
Oh no, I totally agree with her.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying I would imagine she's much smarter than me.
Yeah, well, you never know. You never know about them these days. All right. Well, first one, This one I think you'll get a kick out of. I won't be able to divulge too much here because a farmer never kisses and tells, but apparently they do tell a little bit.
All right.
What? Trying to think how I want to bring this topic up because it tell you how I discovered this. Somebody actually sent this to me in a farming meme, like, and it was like being funny.
Right.
So it led me out of curiosity. I was like, I wonder if this is true. And I look, and it is true. Now, the article was from 2019. I don't know if there's an updated one now and it's changed, but you know what profession? Well, I've already led up too much here. Farming has the highest of all professions. Farmers have more sex than any other career.
And I mean, I don't know. I certainly couldn't argue that, or argue for or against it, really. I wonder how, whenever these statistics come out, I'm like, all right, by what measure?
They just asked them.
Yeah, just polled.
Yeah,
like different professions.
Because they said a lot of them said they had sex every day. Farmers.
Wow. Yeah. I was not contacted for this study, which I don't. As a part timer, I guess I would have. In a day where we have to identify, I would have had to have probably identified my profession more as a veterinarian than as a farmer, maybe.
Well, you know, with I was like thinking about that because it said that they of all because the meme was actually like it's a new study shows farmers have the most sex, and then it shows like it's like a clip, and it's like it says porn stars and they look like sad. And the next clip is it says farmers and they're like, yeah.
Well, and of course, studies, whatever, especially over these last few years, like studies and all, you see how much things can be manipulated. You wonder how big of a sample size. Did they just call
yeah, I can't
10
remember.
people from every profession, or did they poll,
like across all of them?
Did they poll thousands of people from all these profession, just to get a bigger sample size and make it more relevant. But
a lot of the reasoning too, it said that most farmers are more physically fit than you're like, because journalists got the least sex.
Yeah. Well, but hey, this ties back into something you talk about all the time. Average age of a farmer is like nearly 60 now. So hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to my next 20, 25 years or so.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I mean, and like there's a lot of elements to it that I think about too. Farmers, you do have the schedule.
Yeah, you have a random day when
it's
your
raining.
wife will be home middle of the day. Yeah.
Or if you come, a lot of farmers go home for lunch sometimes, so they might go home for lunch and break them off a little action before they go back to the field.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's that's not one I would dispute.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have necessarily thought that, but
that's what. Yeah, I'm like, man. So see, if for people interested in the ag world, there's
more incentive to come into farming.
There is, but yeah, it was kind of neat that it did say like the physical element of farming is part of, I think, one of the reasons, because farmers are typically in better shape than like it compared them to lawyers and journalists and things, and they were like farmers typically are more physically built than those.
Oh yeah, well,
and I would say it's probably getting less.
Well, I can think of some farmers that aren't in very good shape, but of course lawyers and journalists too.
Yeah.
As a general rule, there is more physicality involved. I don't guess there's anything really that physical involved in a lot of other professions, but
yeah,
there certainly can be anyways with farming.
The next one is just further. It's like, this is further why I'm like, man, this biblical end, man. Are we like making the route that way? Because now we've got the turkey flu outbreak. Did you see that?
I knew, and I guess as a veterinarian, I ought to be more up on this. So how different is that from just the regular bird flu or the avian influenza? Is it?
Well, ain't it? Is it not turkey avian? Isn't that what they called it?
I don't know how many different, because obviously there's so many different variants of the flu. But I knew like the poultry industry. I guess what I had seen was more related to chickens. I guess just chicken being a more popular protein. Where it was. I think it was throughout Iowa they were having a lot of trouble. Like yeah, it's not a good time for chicken prices to be going up because beef has already been a little high. I mean, it's could be kind of good for the beef. I'm not gonna cry too much for the chicken folks, but yeah, I had seen over the last few weeks where
Yeah.
that was, and said you might even see that like at the grocery store,
Well, yeah,
price
it was.
ticking up.
That's what it said in there. It was a pretty substantial amount of turkeys that they're losing. Um, and I mean, I was like, this just further ties in with everything else because it's
So,
like there's like a fertilizer shortage. Now there's like a turkey shortage. And then, whether there's chickens or beef or any of
yeah.
that. And it's like, good gosh, man. I mean, um, so, I don't know.
I enjoy eating meat of all kinds, but I think I may have been on our Thanksgiving or Christmas episode. Like turkey's kind of trash. Like as far as meat goes,
I
like
like the deli meat of it a lot. I eat that
I don't
kind
even
of.
eat turkey sandwiches. Like I eat turkey like once a year. Like out of just it's you're obligated to nibble on a little at
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, but I do feel for the folks turkey farming, which again I think I'm sure they're probably not too much different than the chicken farmers. You're not really an independent grower. You're growing under contract.
Yeah.
That's what the cattle
Yeah, I
price
would
discovery
assume.
and transparency act's trying to fight on the beef side is allowing us to still have independent beef producers.
Yeah. I would probably assume that'd be similar.
I think pretty much all the poultry and certainly hogs are that way.
Well, that's speaking of the meat there. Like last night, I cooked some backstrap for some deer that I had, and I've got man, I love cooking with this cast iron skillet, which I've done it forever, but I've started
Yeah.
cooking my steaks in it, and
We had steak fajitas last night. I cooked some sirloins
in
in the
the
cast iron.
man, it's the way to do it. I had never done it with deer backstrap,
Oh yeah, I've
but
done it. Yeah, I'll
I
do it with just about anything.
oh dude, I will too now. Because I cut them into about like kind of like a filet mignon
Yeah.
size, and I put them in there and cooked them. But I was so sad because I had two pretty nice fillets of it left, and Marcy had cut her up some and put it in a thing to take for lunch today for work. And I walked in the kitchen this morning, and I'll be damned if we didn't forget them out on the dang counter.
We do that. My wife is an expert at leaving leftovers from a restaurant in the car.
Oh man, so it smells nice in there.
I say my wife. I mean we're usually together, so I guess it was both of us. But yeah, I can't tell you how many times like you go out to the car the next morning and there's a styrofoam box full of leftovers. You're like, God dang it.
Oh yeah, well that's what it hurt my feelings this morning because yesterday we had them two nice fillets. I was like, that'll be good lunch tomorrow, and oh man, yeah, I walked in there this morning fixing my coffee to come out here, and I was like, damn it, man, because it'll be still warm, so we'll kind of leave it out for it to
Yeah.
cool, then put it up. And I don't know if I was supposed to have put it up, and I just was not aware because she had her lunch thing, so I was kind of just figuring she would.
Right.
But she'll be discovering that here in about probably 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
But yeah, I do still enjoy throwing a steak on the grill, but yeah, for one, it's just convenient. Like last night, the weather was nasty. Yeah, I can just turn that skillet on, let it get scalding hot while I'm right there in the kitchen doing whatever else. And I tell you what I use, and this is going to sound like I'm a little bit of I don't know, kind of a snob or whatever, or a hippie, but you use just butter.
In the skillet?
Yeah.
Yeah, but and olive oil.
I use ghee. Yeah.
Do you get that at Trader Joe's?
I've never even been at a Trader Joe. I do order it, which from Amazon, which but
Well, ain't that like natural butter or something?
it's clarified butter.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason it's good, in that application is it has a higher smoke point than butter.
Yeah.
You get that skillet scalding hot, and you throw that butter in there, it smokes real bad.
Yeah.
It won't smoke like butter does. So yeah, it's basically butter. But it's
Have
just
you used avocado oil?
I never have.
I got some of it I use on my Blackstone because it's
Yeah.
got a real high like heat point. I thought about trying it, which I'll put olive oil and then throw butter because it's supposed to raise the heat point of the olive oil. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
do that. But
Well, it does annoy me buying that ghee because you do have to like special order it.
Yeah.
Our local stores will have it, and like there's only a couple of brands out there that make it, and it's all like organic, grass fed.
I'm sure it
all
is.
That. I'm like, God dang it! Like, because my general rule of thumb is first two options, and one of them's like bragging about all that. I buy the other one. I'm like,
Yeah.
get the hell out of here with all that.
Well,
But,
see, I mean, in the hippie thing, we're about to go down that route.
all right.
Well,
and this is a specialty product, and so they're going to try to do everything they can to inflate the value of it.
Well, that's a good way to say. Which first, a quick thing here we'll add. If you're doing try the cast iron skillet thing out. Get it super hot. I mean, it's super easy. Like
Man,
get this.
I use cast iron for just about everything. Doesn't matter if I'm frying taco meat.
Well, seasoning, man.
Cooking
Keep
eggs.
seasoning it. Yeah.
When I'm gonna go home, we get done here and sausage, bacon, and
Do you clean it with salt?
Man, I don't really clean mine much at all. Like
I mean, how do you get the stuff out of it?
So like this morning, because I cooked those steaks in there and have that, I'll scrape it with my little, real hard plastic pan scraper.
Yeah.
If there's much other residue, I'll get my sink water scalding hot.
Yeah.
And spray it out with that, and then wipe it out with paper towel. I've got my little chain mail scrubber that I'll scrub it with that, but just water. That's all I use.
Okay. See, I use water and salt.
But if I think last night before I cooked those steaks, the night before we had cooked. What had we cooked? I guess it was basically tacos. So it had just been beef, but it still had a lot of the fat in there. So I just scraped that out and throw the grease, the fat in the trash can, and wiped it out with paper towel and went right on.
Yeah. That's what I've been. If I have a lot in there, I'll actually I get the water, like say, super hot, and I'll rinse it out, and then I sprinkle salt in there if I've got like pieces stuck to the pan.
Yeah.
And then take a paper towel and just scrub it, and the salt is like provides that grit to scrub it. And I coat it with olive oil afterwards. I get it kind of hot and re-oil it.
That little chain mail scrubber thing, I think those are ideally for cast iron or whatever. I use that. Yeah, if I got a bunch of stuff stuck on it.
Yeah.
Get that freebie. Yeah, shoot that thing. I can fry eggs. You know, it's as non-stick as any Teflon pan.
Yeah. Well, that's what I encourage people. Check them out, man. And you can go to Walmart and get you one of them Lodge pans or something. Like, you can find them, but and Lodge might be American made. I don't know.
I'll have to look that up. It might be a good one.
But y'all try out the cast iron stuff. But all right, so to jump into, I mean, I say our topic for the day, it's already 30 minutes in, but watched a film, and this is something that I have been on for a while. This regenerative ag thing. And you know, we kind of joke about the hippie thing, and I ruffled some people's feathers on YouTube like a year ago with my review of Kiss the Ground, because I kind of talked about it. I was like the hippy dippy stuff in there, but I'll be honest, I'm kind of drawn to it a little more. And I watched a movie. Have you ever heard of The Biggest Little Farm?
I have not. I say that I have, but only because
yeah,
you had talked about it on YouTube.
Well, man, I'll tell you, I encourage people to watch this movie. I had some people ask me about it, and they were like, man, what do you think about The Biggest Little Farm? And I had never heard of it. And it's on YouTube is where I watched it. I had to rent it on there, but I think it's actually on Hulu, and they've made a second one or something called like The Return or something. Unfortunately, Disney is the one that I think picked up their second one, and Disney sucks. So, I hated that. But The Biggest Little Farm, it's about this couple, and man, there's a couple things that I think about here, and I'm going to write this down so I don't forget it here. Or I'll just go ahead and address it now. A lot of this regen ag stuff, I don't know if you've listened to much of it on like different podcasts, several of them. I think maybe even Shark Farmer may have had some people on that do it. But a lot of times it's new people into ag. Like, it's rare that somebody that's like been in the industrial ag makes the swap to regen ag, and it never fails when somebody gets into it and they ask like other farmers for some help or information on doing this. They always pretty much like laugh them out of the neighborhood. And it kind of is a lot of the stuff. I think me and you may have even talked about it before, that like resistance to some change or new methods in there. Farming is, I feel like, probably one of the most, I would almost say, stubborn industries.
Oh yeah. Well, and people are right. If something's been working for them, they're going to be hard pressed to change. And in a way, I see that, but it's also just because you've always done something one way doesn't mean that's not a good reason to keep doing it a way. Just because it's always been like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the biggest little farm was really cool because they buy. So the premise of it is it's a true story, and it follows this. The dude has been filming. He actually was like a videographer, for like Discovery and different things, and you can appreciate they rescued a dog. That was like what kind of got them into it. And they had this dog, and he won't quit barking when they're gone. And they live in California, and they're in like this little bitty apartment, and he barks all day. And so they actually get pretty much told they either have to get rid of him or they're getting evicted. And so they buy this farm. They wanted to be farmers. So they buy this 230-acre farm, and it's like really shitty, desolate, like an old rundown orchard and all this stuff. And they want to do the regen ag thing. And they bring in a guy like, are you familiar with Gabe Brown?
No.
Well, he wrote, what is the name of the book? He's kind of like the godfather, modern godfather today of this regen ag. And I listened to him, I think on Shark Farmer, maybe, but I've got his book. But I can't remember. I gotta look.
That name is familiar. I may have heard him on. He's still alive.
Yes.
I may have heard him. Yeah, because if he wasn't alive, I wouldn't have heard him. But on actually another podcast. Let me see.
He works with like Soul Health Academy, but man, I wish I got to find the name of his book. Dirt to Soil is the book. I've got the book, and it's about getting into regenerative ag. So the part that was so like fascinating to me on here. So I watched it, and again, it goes from like year 1, I think probably to like year 10 or something. And it's called Apricot Lane Farms. That's the name of their farm. And they don't want to have any chemicals involved. Like it is organic, but it's like they're just trying to basically farm them in harmony, I guess is what they consider it. But they bring in this guy. Gabe is not the one they bring in. There's this guy named Alan York, and he's very similar to Gabe Brown, I guess. And he actually he passes away by like year 2 or 3. And so they're kind of like tossed to the wolves because they're still learning this cycle. And the real cool thing to me about it all is you really build like this ecosystem that everything plays a part in. Livestock plays a big part in regen ag. Like they do a ton of vegetables. I think they had like 200 different fruits and vegetables. And then they got all these orchards, and they plant cover crop in the orchards. And, they were like bush hogging in between there, trying to keep the cover crop down. Well, then they would just graze their sheep or cattle in there, and they would eat the cover crop down. And then, naturally they shit in there, and you get pee, and you get the fertilizer from that. But it's kind of like every time they do one thing to try to balance it out, something else happens. And they bring all this livestock, because as they improve the ground, it actually, it's bringing livestock back to the area. They start having bug problems. Well, then the bugs, like birds, start coming because now there's bugs, and so they start eating the bugs, but then they also start eating the fruit on the fruit trees, and so they have to try to figure out how to balance that out. And like ultimately over time it ends up like predators of the birds start coming in. Like they set up owl houses, and they had like 86 different owls or something on this place. Not different species. I don't know how many species there are, but they had like all these different owls and hawks, and so the hawks would kill the birds that were doing this. But like it was pretty cool because they have chickens, and coyotes are slaughtering the chickens. And the dude is like, I don't want to, like, I gave him kudos in that video.
They didn't want to have the chickens in confinement. They wanted them out.
Yeah. And he didn't want to kill the coyotes. He was like, I don't want to do this. And in the movie, he finally, like, it's out there one day, they're radioing, they're like, man, there's the coyotes here. And it has killed some chickens. He goes out there finally with a shotgun, and he kills the coyote. And he like hated that he killed this coyote. Because I'm watching it and I'm like, just kill the coyotes, man, just kill them. But
leave the body laying there, it'll decompose. Into the soil.
But it was kind of cool because he's like, I want to find out how, because again, he's like, there is some sort of balance that this coyote is supposed to play in the mix. And I'm like, well, there ain't no balance this thing.
Well, but like, I don't know. Yeah, the coyote, you've kind of, by bringing in the chickens, you've brought in a very vulnerable, not a totally natural, like it's not, like rabbits, or wild rabbits, I should say. Population. Like, we know like their population is directly balanced, where it's a little different when you're bringing these poor chickens.
Well, they actually end up putting like shepherd dogs in there with the chickens.
Yeah.
And
that's common even around here, where people use the livestock guard dogs. Think of them more for like sheep.
Yeah.
Which a coyote will devastate them as well, but also for their chickens.
Yeah. Well, and it works. One of them kills a chicken, but
one of the dogs.
Yeah.
And that's common too.
Yeah. But like, so they bring it in. But the coolest part, man, for me, I think, in the whole thing was at the end, because they start having gophers coming in and they're causing damage. See, they have snails that start getting on the trees, and it was nuts. Like how many snails were on these trees. Like it showed tree would be covered up. It'd be big snails. And they had a bunch of ducks too. And they actually let the ducks loose in the orchard, and they ate the living shit out of these snails. Like they'd go up and be getting them off the trees.
Yeah.
So the ducks played that part in the cycle. Well, then the coyotes, once they put the dogs in there with the chickens, they kind of got them sustained. The coyotes couldn't go kill the chickens anymore. So the coyotes started killing the gophers.
Yeah.
And so then they actually were like, we almost don't even, like now we have so many gophers that the coyotes don't bother anything because they're constantly after them.
Well, that's a good example of everything you do has an effect. That butterfly effect, that you may not even anticipate. And nature figures out a way to balance itself out. But just the whole regenerative ag thing, because of course I've heard of it. It's kind of one of those things like, what is it?
Yeah.
And so just as you were talking, and this is just one website. Actually, this is Wikipedia, which is, it's Wikipedia, but even says it's not a specific practice itself. It's more like the idea. So I don't know. I would think that a lot of farmers would argue, well, we already do regenerative ag. Now we may not take it to the extreme. Like that group does. And
yeah, there's core principles. There's 5 core principles of regenerative ag. The first one is minimum soil disturbance. So, about no-till pretty much. Then maximize crop diversity. You always want something different growing, and keep the soil covered, because around here, most of our crop land is dead in the winter.
Right.
Or like, if it's something that's just a weed that somebody hasn't, like poana might be on there. Follow crop rotation. So again, just keep that rotating, and integrate livestock. Like that's the 5 core principles of regenerative ag. And because they don't, the argument for it really is, if you should not have to pump the fertilizer into the ground because the ground naturally, and I've watched them where they've done like Soil Health Institute is really really rock solid, and they've shown where, like, when you put back in the cover crop, keep all that, you can take like that white dirt and make it black.
Yeah.
You want a dark soil, better. It's just a better soil. And I mean, you've seen people do it. Like it sounds pretty crazy. And I mean, I'll go a step further. Like it's something that's been on my mind a lot. Uh, and I'm getting into like dangerous territory here, especially as a farmer. But uh, man, a lot of people, I mean, people that you and I know have had cancer, and it's like there's a lot of stuff now that really does make me wonder about some of this chemical stuff. And I mean,
Yeah. The whole, like, of course, Monsanto has been right in the crosshairs. I guess it's Bayer now, but Roundup. And the problem I had with a lot, like, there were some pretty good other studies that were looking at, like, there's not necessarily a higher risk. We see people, and this is something I run into every day. I mean, and because of being a veterinarian, you're like, oh man, dogs, they never got cancer, and
yeah,
cancer's so much more common now. I'm like, well, you're right. I do feel like that's a lot of times true, man. We diagnose cancer every day, and it's
yeah,
terrible. Like anytime an old dog or cat comes in sick, it's like you just bet on it being cancer, and you're gonna be right half the time. It seems like.
yeah,
But they also, cats are living to be 18 and 20 years old now, like regularly.
yeah,
Dogs living to be 12, 15, 16, more years, like happens regularly. Like
yeah.
in the old days, it didn't. I mean,
Well, like 8 or 9 or something.
I don't even know if it was that old,
Yeah,
on average, but those people like, our dogs never got cancer. Well, your dog got run over by a car when it was like 4.
yeah,
Yeah, those don't get cancer.
yeah,
I mean, I tell people all the time too. It's like, if your dog's dying of cancer, it's a weird way to think of it, but it's kind of a good thing. I mean, that's you prevented everything you possibly could have prevented. Because
yeah,
most of our cancers in pets aren't preventable type things. It's not, dog didn't smoke itself into having lung cancer or anything
yeah,
like that. But
yeah,
um, but I don't. So I don't know. I do, like, as far as just the regenerative ag, like, oh yeah, man, I love like forages. I'm kind of a nerd over that, and you're putting back into the soil, and especially right now, minimizing how much fertilizer you need to put down.
yeah,
And yeah, of course, with grazing, that's why I don't want to start a row crop versus ranching debate, but where grazing a lot of times is a lot better for the soil health than monocropping agriculture.
Oh yeah, well it definitely is.
I mean, we've got multiple species of forages growing out there. We don't want it to be, just a single type of grass.
Well, that's one of the challenges that I'm like getting into it, because I do have that, like, I guess that hippie side of me that's kind of like, I mean, I feel like a farmer, a lot of them, man, you ought to love the land. And
Well, and I think most do. Like, you can think of some extreme examples where
but
they're just plow the ground to
oh
death,
yeah,
and
but the way modern farming really is an unusual thing to, like,
right.
the way we do it.
Well, and this probably isn't a good excuse for it, but I feel like we've almost been forced.
Yeah,
I say we, the row crop guys, like, it's just, we're, the way the markets work, the demand, for certain crops to be grown, and, with having to do more with less acres all the time, yeah, we're trying to figure out maybe what would be considered unnatural ways to
yeah,
run up our yields. And yeah, that may not be a good excuse for why you're doing it,
yeah,
but oh yeah, I love, like, yeah, my cows, in a lot of ways, they're fertilized,
yeah,
all that grass goes right through them, goes right back into the soil. But that was a good,
yeah,
the other podcast I was trying to think of, I don't think it was the Gabe Brown that was a guest on there, but they had talked about, it was all about soil health. Like, I loved it. Like, it was awesome. Really good listen. But guy had bought a plot of ground over in the Ozarks, rocky, naturally very poor soil. And it was focusing more on wildlife. And,
Yeah.
They don't grow good deer in that part of the country. It's been like a 20-year process for them. But through the use of a lot of cover crops, and not even necessarily cover crops, but just growing crops that put a lot of organic matter back in the ground, and just through focusing on the soil health,
Yeah.
they're now like, he had the numbers, like how many like record book deer they had now
Really?
been able to harvest in that area that people, especially 40, 50 years ago, said that's not possible here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was all, and he'd even talked about how in some spots they had no topsoil, like they're basically on rock. And now they have like 6 inches of topsoil there.
Yeah.
And it's just, and so they've really sped it up, over just maybe it would have naturally occurred. And yeah, that kind of thing. And I feel like a lot of farmers like get into that, maybe, I don't know, maybe not all, but I mean,
Man, I don't know, because I do think it's a hard, I wish I could say I think more of the regen ag stuff is the future, but like I said, I mean, I don't know how you get it on a sustainable scale for the people we have to feed these days. But I don't know, man. I like it, and I think back, like, cause I mean, we do a burn down, go in and I remember saying, like, after spraying this one stuff, I was like, oh, it's like scorched earth, like, when we get done, because it kills everything, which is what I'm trying to do. Whenever I'm doing a burn down, I want to just slaughter it.
So your crop, has no competition. Yeah.
Yep. But man, I don't know. Like, I do find myself.
You're wondering if there's a better way.
Yes. And I like they talked about in this movie, and Gabe Brown has talked about it. So, like, I know, like, I don't want to sound like this one movie has dictated this. This is something I've been really looking into, and I've kind of felt a little challenged on for a while. But like, they had a day, what did he say? They got like, and they had like 18 inches of rain or something hit in like maybe even one day or something there. It was a crazy amount of rain they got. And it had been a drought in California at this time. And all the farms around them, like, it showed the runoff and all this stuff. And I mean, their farm didn't have any problem because they had the green to hold, like Dad and I have talked about how bad all our stuff has been washing for several years now. And I mean, we've been no-tilling. Like, it ain't like we ain't been working it up. Used to, you would lose a ton of topsoil because the way people used to farm, you dist it and do all of it. And it was great planting it because you're like driving on a cloud when you're planting. But then a big rain comes, and hell, you'd lose 2 inches of topsoil like every time it'd be a big rain, and it'd blow all the ditches back out. Well, we've been losing so much on our ditches. And I noticed on my farm in Covington, I had put cover crop on it for the first time last year, and I went out there and I just had some structures actually put in on it. But the ditches are like, I mean, substantially better already in one season of this. And I'm like, because typically in the wintertime, everything's dead, and out there it was green.
So, and like on your cover crop, like, will you go ahead and just spray it and terminate it? Like,
it's either going to be that, or I've even thought about getting one of those roller crimpers.
Yeah, that's that. And I've also seen it. I'm not the row crop guy by any means, where people will plant into it green. And I guess there's a variety of ways to do it, but I was seeing another one. Actually, it was on YouTube. They were, I guess they had a special sprayer rigged up where they only sprayed a very narrow strip, into there. I don't remember if it was rye or what they had planted.
Yeah.
And so like 80% of the ground cover was still left green, but it was just right. I think they were going to plant cotton.
Yeah.
It was just like a narrow, like, I don't know, maybe a 4 to 6 inch strip where that row of cotton was going to be planted. It would be dead, so they wouldn't have any trouble with the planter, and getting everything. They won't be running the planter directly through the green cover crop. But of course, there's a million different little, ways you can adjust that. But yeah, I think there's a lot to that.
Oh yeah, I mean, From a
Well, and we'll go even a little further. You know, my brother and I have even looked at this because, you know, of course, we don't have that much ground in grazing. You know, the cropland lays out all winter most of the time.
yeah,
A lot of parts of the country, I mean, some a little around here, not much, they'll, you know, like in corn, for instance, may fly on some rye, you know, before that corn's even ready to harvest. That way it's already up. Then they'll go in there as soon as that corn's harvested, which one, you can just graze the corn stalks.
yeah,
Stalks themselves have some feed value to the animals. But then you have all that rye that's coming up, especially, you know, by this time of spring, you know, it's really big. If you had some cropland that was already fenced, or you can go in there with just some temporary like electric fencing and graze that. Of course,
oh yeah,
then you got animals that are basically putting that rye back in the ground, you know, in the form of manure. And yeah, you can. Now, how big of a scale can you do that on? That's always been our thing. Like, all right, you know,
could it be worthwhile?
well, like our time. I mean, we both, you know, we're just doing the cattle on the side, and yeah, it's one thing to go out there and throw up the electric fence, and you know, you'd probably want to be selective on what animals you put out there, and ones
Yeah.
that were a little, you know, maybe already trained to respect an electric wire, or you know, just good, calm, tame animals to begin with.
Yeah,
So you don't have them running all over the county. But then, of course, like, well, then you're going to have a gathering pen everywhere you go, and that would be totally cost prohibitive. You're not going to spend.
oh, it's there's a lot of logistics that go into it. Like
It works better in parts of the country where, you know, very densely popular, sparsely populated, excuse me, and they, you know, you may farm 3,000 acres in one block.
yeah,
And so you can just open the gate, and I mean, sometimes literally they drive the cows just down the road
yeah,
to the next, you know, back to the home place where the cows will pasture all summer. You know, don't necessarily have to truck them around. Where if we were going to try to do that on any scale here, we would have to, you know, gather them and truck them to the next, you know, back off the cropland to you know, plant, you know, in the spring. Which I guess y'all getting ready to plant if it ever quits raining.
yeah. I actually was hoping to already
I know you
have
said
some
early
beans
April,
planted.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to have some planted the first week, and the weather's just been, I mean, which has been cold some days and then raining like crazy. So as soon as it gets dry, I'll start sticking some seed in the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah, we were already terribly wet before it rained.
Yeah.
because it rained the day before. I don't even. Yeah, it just rains this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down for several days after this toad
Oh, yeah.
strangler.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, no, I encourage you guys, watch Biggest Little Farm. Don't bother with Kiss the Ground. Soil Health Institute, Living Soil, I think is the name of that one. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's really, really good. Check those out. We'll probably do some more chatting on regenerative ag, because I mean, that's a really deep topic we can go down into. And it's something I don't know, man. I've been really thinking about start making some shifting towards that direction. Just, I don't know. So I've got the company today, or unless you got anything else.
Man, the one you mentioned earlier is American made.
Lodge?
I looked them up. Yeah.
Really?
And that even better, they're in Tennessee,
Really?
South Pittsburgh, Tennessee.
Well, there you go then. We don't even have to do the
I
other
was about
company.
to say, because I had another one kind of in the bank too. We can save. So,
All right.
yeah, South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, kind of over in the Chattanooga area, I believe. Yeah, just this side of
Huh.
Chattanooga.
Well, there you go. Get you a good American Tennessee-made cast iron skillet.
Yeah, I thought, I was like, that probably is American made, and yeah, they operate 2 foundries in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. Our home since the very beginning.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I'm pretty sure mine is a Lodge brand.
I have 2 different ones. I'm trying to even think, but I have cast iron. I'm pretty sure this one is a Lodge. My muffin pan, we cook like our
Really? It's
cornbread
cast
in.
iron?
Yeah. I think it's one of those that, like, my cornbread comes out looking like an ear of corn.
Yeah.
Got one of those. I think I got it like Bass Pro. You know, you see
Oh.
them because they have like a big Lodge section there at
Yeah.
Bass Pro. But yeah, U.S. manufacturing, baby.
Well, there you go. Lodge, check them out. That's a good one.
That's
I mean,
one we
what-
didn't. Yeah, I mean, it tied right in. So
What is more American than a cast iron skillet?
and nothing apparently. Bald eagles.
Yep. Yeah, if they needed, Lodge should put like a bald eagle at the bottom on the underside there, and they'd be right there.
Right.
Well, all right, guys. I think that's good stuff to think about. Like I said, I'm sure we'll go down that rabbit hole more.
I definitely want to talk cover crops more in detail. I don't know. Now it's, I guess, seasonally appropriate, maybe more in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, and like the whole idea of grazing that cover crop potentially, like that's where I get, a little excited or interested. But
Well, we'll go down those rabbit holes. Guys, again, please let us know any topics you want us to cover. TalkDirtPodcast.com is our website. Let us know that you can go on there, contact us, send us a question or anything, comment on any of our posts on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Let us know something you'd like to hear. Please leave us a rating and a review on Spotify if you listen, or Apple Podcast, because it helps grow the exposure of the show.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Y'all keep tuning back in. We always looking forward to the questions.
Have a good one.